Let's roll. John, you can start.
You want me to start?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you for coming. We will reconvene the Housing Authority. Is there anyone that wishes to comment on any item that is not on the agenda? Hearing none, we'll move on. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn the Housing Authority. There is no reportable action out of closed session.
Correct, no reportable action.
Thank you.
So moved.
Motion second. Please vote. Motion carries. We are adjourned.
All right, at this time.
Passes unanimously?
Yes.
Yes, motion carried.
Unanimously.
No, unanimously, we have to say
Oh, we do?
yes.
I think the city clerk mentioned that.
Okay, at this time, we will reconvene the city council meeting for Tuesday, December 16th. And according to our agenda, we are on the Pledge of Allegiance. So if you would please rise and join us in the pledge. Place your hand over your heart and recite with us. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. This time we'll ask for public comment for matters not on the agenda. If you would like to have time to discuss an item, there's an orange form in the back, and you can give that to Susan, our city clerk. Seeing we have none at this time, we'll move on to confirmation agenda. Are there any additions or changes by staff?
Madam Mayor, there's one item I'd like to announce, and that is that come January 5th, we will have a new fire chief, Alex Gregg, and he is in the audience this evening. So if it works with the council, I'd like to ask him to come forward and introduce himself.
Please.
By way of background, Jody Gray has been our chief for a good year. She is fortunate enough to get a transfer, promotion perhaps, to a fire position that is close to her home, being in the San Jacinto area, and she lives in Murrieta. And so while we hate to see her go, particularly now that we've gotten her as part of the team, it makes better family life for her to be in that location. This is Alex Gregg, and he'll be starting January 1st. And sir, if you'd please introduce yourself, because you're familiar to us.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and Council Member. It's my pleasure to be here tonight to introduce myself, be your new fire chief effective January 5th next year. A little bit about myself. Going on 26 years with the department. Had many positions within Riverside County, from Coachella to Temecula and back. And I live here in Quinta, 23-year resident, so
Excellent.
been here since when it was still a small town. And seen all the growth and everything that's taken place, and enjoy living here with myself and my wife. Been married 31 years and raised a family here. My son and his family live just down the road in Dunes. But I'm really happy to be able to come back and work back in the community where I live, and be close to home again. And thanks for having me here. If you have any questions for me.
Great.
Well, welcome. Welcome to your hometown. We look forward to working with you come January, and you're embarking upon the season, so I'm sure we'll be seeing a lot of each other.
So 23 years, I know cycle.
Perfect, perfect. Any questions for Alex? I would like to take an opportunity to thank Jody for the work that she's done and the collaborative efforts that she's shown with her crew through the chamber, through city events. You've always been out there with the team and really have represented our city well. So we wish you the best. We know family comes first, so come back and visit us anytime. Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Alex. Any other changes or additions by the council?
I think I would feel more comfortable pulling consent 13 just for a separate vote, because it says approve a recipient, and yet in the staff report, the recipient that they are referring to is Dick Anderson, so.
So we'll pull that item.
Okay.
Pulling item number 15. Anything else? Okay, we will move on to announcements, presentations, and written communications. We have done our recess and reconvene, so we'll move on to consent calendar. Is there a motion for the consent calendar?
Move approval as amended.
Second.
There's a motion and second, please vote. Consent calendar as amended is approved unanimously. Let's go to item number 13, approve a recipient for the 2015 Senior Inspiration Award Program.
I would move approval of Dick Anderson for the 2015 Senior Inspiration Award Program as our La Quinta City recipient.
I'll second that.
There's an motion and second for Dick Anderson. Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Okay, we'll move right on to our business session item. There are two items this afternoon. First is to select council members as City of La Quinta representatives on various local, regional, and state committees for 2015. Let me get to my graph. I think that our approach on this will be for Susan's ease, we'll take the attachment 1, which is the horizontal sheet, and go down the list one by one and make initially interest suggestions, keep giveaway offerings, before we do a motion on making any changes, if that meets with everybody's approval. Okay. And looking, I'm just going to go by the agenda as well, based on who's been assigned so far. So let's start with the Animal Campus Commission. Christy has initially been chair of that. And are you interested in keeping that or donating it?
I would like to donate that to Councilmember Pena.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, so we'll add that as the member, and we'll need an alternate as well, since Terry Henderson is retired.
I'll
Christie?
do the alternate, yeah.
You would like to do the alternate? Okay. Can we do a massive motion sweep at the end? Will that work, if we're all in agreement on these?
That's fine.
Okay,
Look.
great. Okay, Joint Powers Insurance Authority. Christie, you want to keep
Yeah,
that? That
that's
meets ad hoc, right? All right, so no change there. Robert Ratty was assigned the initial Chamber of Commerce workshop rotation, so that stays. Civic Center Art Purchase Committee, that's something that we would come up with as it presents itself near March, correct?
Madam Mayor, our attempt this year and going forward is to do assignments for all committees at this time, so that you don't have to keep coming up with assignments throughout the year.
Okay.
So if we could do the second 6 months for the chamber, that would be great at this time.
Okay, well, I think that, based on that rotation, I don't know if I was next or you were next. I think I was. You were next? Okay, all right, so we'll go with Lee for the second 6 months. This is a little bit like Go Fish, as we reassign these, so bear with us. Okay, so the Civic Center Art Purchase Committee, the last year, this year actually, was Osborne and Henderson.
Right.
And who did that before? Was it Christine the Mayor, did you?
No, I think you and I did it before. Did we do it before?
We did shop, yes, we got the beautiful
Right, it's out there.
leaves in the lobby, all right? So I would recommend perhaps we do Ratty and Pena.
Yeah,
I agree.
okay.
Willing to accept?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. I'm interested in keeping the Conservation Commission and E&E. Lee, would you like to remain as alternate?
I'll remain as alternate.
Okay.
Do that.
And I'll move into the CVAC Executive Committee as mayor. Christie, would you like to retain
That's
the
fine.
alternate position? CVAC Public Safety was with Terry as, myself as an alternate.
Linda, did you go over CVAC Energy? You said
Yes,
conservation. keep that.
Conservation and E&E and Energy Environment, I like to keep both
Okay.
of those as
And-
well.
And also
I'll be the
Coachella
alternate
Valley
on both.
Conservation as well?
Yes.
Okay.
I guess I would like to nominate Lee for Public Safety and perhaps John as backup.
Okay.
Good.
Thank you.
And then Transportation, Robert, would you like to assume that responsibility?
Yes.
Any alternates in mind? John, would you be interested?
Yeah, I
in-
can take that. I
That's the
Yeah.
CVAC
serve as a
Transportation.
CVAC, yeah.
Okay. Homelessness, Lee.
On the homelessness committee, well, One, I'd like to stay if I could. I'll be working with our city staff on the homeless count. Come next month, January 28th, we'll be doing a homeless count. Get up bright and early, 5 o'clock in the morning. But an interesting thing with that, I'll talk about later, is looking to go back to kind of a community service group versus homelessness.
So that's why you want to hang on.
So I'll keep that if that's all
Okay.
right.
John, you interested in
Council.
being the alternate? I'd like to give that up.
I'll give that up.
You'll give that up too?
Yes.
You're not interested in being alternate for homelessness?
No.
Any other takers?
I'll take it.
Okay. And CVEP.
I'd like to give that to perhaps Robert.
Robert, would you like CVEP?
Yes, I would take it, yes.
Okay. I'll stay as alternate. That seems to work. You're representing your company,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
we are fully represented as a
Yes, we
group.
are.
3 of us.
And the Mountains Conservancy, Christie,
I'd like to keep that.
you want to keep that? Lee, do you want to remain the alternate on that?
No.
Okay. Who's interested in taking Mountain Conservancy as an alternate?
I'll take that.
Okay. And the alternate's really when your fellow council member is out of town, unable to attend, and
Right.
we hope to provide as much notice as possible, when possible. That doesn't always happen. Community Service Grant Review Committee.
Maybe we
For
rotate
some
that.
reason, I think, actually, when it said February members, Christie and I
We just
went
did it.
through an ad hoc for
Right.
grants.
That's right, you guys did the last.
You
We
had
were
a
the
fun time.
September meeting.
We were the
members.
September.
So we'll cross these 4 out. We need 4 more.
So let's start fresh. So if we've got February, Robert and Lee
Sure.
Sure.
for the first run?
Sure. Okay.
And I love doing that, but you know, if Christie and John want to team up
Sure.
for the second run?
Sure, September.
Okay.
Okay. We took care of the classic charities, Desert Sounds Unified. I feel like we should keep that intact since
I'd
we
like
need
to,
to
yeah,
really
hopefully we can
meet.
get a meeting.
Yes.
We've struggled in the last 4 months to try to get a meeting, so
Okay.
hopefully we can get one in January.
Okay, and in terms of the Economic Subdevelopment Committee, we just established that, hasn't been quite a year, so
Right.
I'm
Leave that for
comfortable
now.
leaving it as
Okay.
is for now, right?
Yep.
I was just named Chair of the Greater Palm Springs Convention Visitors Bureau, JPA, so I'd like to retain that post. Great group. And we'll move down to Jackie Cochran Airport.
Do you have an
Do you want
to-
alternative? An alternate?
Oh, alternate.
Sorry.
JPA alternate. Anybody?
I'll take it.
Okay.
Who was that? I'm sorry.
Robert.
Robert.
And the subcommittee, Linda, the Economic Development Subcommittee?
Oh, you would like to be an alternate on that? We don't have an alternate.
Sure.
I would say we could.
The next one, IID, we have it crossed out here, and there was some confusion on whether my term ends on this 2016 or 15? Or 14?
According to the information I have, it's 2016, your term ends.
And did you confirm that then with Rosa Marie, with IID?
No, that's information that we collected when you were first appointed. We can confirm it, but I
Because
can't
their thought is
imagine
that
it
I
changed.
just stepped into the existing term and didn't start a new term. When I got on the board, Christian took your seat, it was based on the 4-year term that she started.
Okay,
Which means,
all right, we'll confirm that.
Let us confirm that, and then we'll bring that forward at the January 6th meeting if we need to make a change.
okay,
Yeah,
so this,
because, yeah, the first meeting will be on that Monday, January 5th or 6th. That first Monday will be the next meeting.
The 5th, okay.
and they're expecting you.
Yes. Well, they're expecting somebody. And again, because Rosa Marie with IID said that my term has ended, and that's their position.
Oh, I
Oh,
see.
see.
Okay.
So,
Oh, okay.
We'll
So
need to confirm
Do we
with
want to
them.
select somebody
So-
just in case?
Right.
then?
Now, are you able to serve another term? or-
Yes.
Okay, are you
Yeah.
interested in
Okay.
serving another term?
Please.
Okay, so we'll keep Lee on there.
And we need a member, don't we, a citizen rep sometime at one point?
So, yes, what's Mark Weber's position now?
Our information is his term is till 2017.
So he's our member
Yeah,
citizen.
oh, okay.
Okay.
Do we want an alternate from the council to assign?
That'd be a good idea.
Are they doing teleconference now, or are you driving to?
Yes, no, they're
Yeah.
doing teleconference, so we just meet here at the La Quinta office.
Okay. Anyone?
I'll be an alternate for that.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
All right, moving on to the airport.
I'll keep that.
Okay, we need an
Chair
alternate
that.
for Jackie Cochran Airport.
What time do they meet, Christie?
They meet once a quarter only, and usually we're now meeting at John Benoit's office, 1:30 or 2.
What day do you know?
Used to be Wednesday.
I'd
that's the
have to look at my
14th,
calendar.
okay.
They just meet once a quarter, and if there's nothing on the agenda,
Okay,
they don't.
I'll be an
meet.
alternate. I don't know.
Okay.
Okay, just,
Sean?
so the 14th, for example, if it's listed,
Yeah, in 2014.
that's a Wednesday.
Yeah.
If you look
Sorry,
at
yeah.
the dates, Wednesday.
As usual.
Okay, so that'll be
right there,
John,
okay.
alternate. Okay. The League of California Cities, since we don't have a board member present per se, we just need a delegate for the annual conference. I served as that in September. I'm happy to move into that role. I'll be attending those conferences, but we would need an alternate.
Where's it going to be this time?
Were they going to Bakersfield? I'm kidding.
No, Fresno.
San Jose?
That's right.
Robert, would you be the alternate? Would we go into those?
I will do it, yeah,
Okay,
I will do it.
if that's okay.
And typically, the league is open for all of us to attend, and not
Right.
everybody has to go to the voting. There's only one voting member per city council. So that's that role. Everybody will be invited to attend.
Okay.
Okay, RCTC, Robert, I think since you've got CVAC transportation, it makes
Yes.
sense
Uh,
to move
thank
into
you.
that
I will
role.
take that, yes.
And I'm not interested in the alternate role for that. It's
Neither am
based
I.
on demand. Who can go to Riverside?
On Wednesdays, I can be an alternate.
John?
And then SCAG, I'll serve as the delegate as well, and if we can get an alternate for that, Robert, I don't know if you want to do that since you're on the league.
Right, it's
Yeah.
to a little connector, right?
Yeah,
So,
somewhat, yeah.
Somewhat, yeah, so I'll take it.
Okay.
Thank you.
And then Sunline has traditionally been a mayor's role, but I'd like to offer that up to Christie, if you're willing
Okay.
to take
Yes,
Sunline.
I would like to.
Okay, and alternate for that, Robert, would you want to, if you're on the transportation
Since I'm
wagon,
transportation wagon, yeah.
perhaps we do it that way?
I'll take that.
Ooh, okay.
Okay, anything else, Susan? You think we got it all?
I've got it all. Thank you so much.
All right, so I will call for a motion.
Madam
for
Mayor,
the-
I'll make a motion to assign council members and mayor to these as stated.
So move.
Is there a second?
Second?
Okay, there is a motion, a second, please vote.
Sorry.
I got the helm. You got it.
Sorry.
That's okay.
That's not big deal.
Motion passes unanimously. Very good. That wasn't bad at all. All right, moving on to business session, item number 2, consideration of closing City Hall on December 26th and January 2nd. Those would be the Fridays after the holidays that staff already has off, as well as Christmas Eve and New Year's Eve. Frank, are you giving us an update?
Yes.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor and members of the council, this came about a little bit earlier this month, in that as we started looking at who was going to be around on December 26th and January 2nd, noticed that many staff members were putting in for vacation time, and they're eligible to take vacation time if they have it available to them. So then started talking to the executive team about how much traffic do we get here at City Hall historically during the holiday season, and then again 7 years ago when this occurred last time around, and traffic is very light. So in looking at the situation, I started to question the viability of having staff here at City Hall, given that a majority would like to take the time off, we would have a skeleton crew, we will not have a lot of business going on, and one wonders how productive everyone will be in that holiday spirit. So brought this forward for your consideration to see if you, as a one-time basis, would be interested in closing City Hall on December 26th and January 2nd. We did a survey of other Valley cities, and a majority will be closed definitely on December 22nd, or 26th, excuse me, and a good portion of the cities will be closed also on January 2nd. So it takes council action to do this. The costs are minimal because we're paying employees if they're here or if they're off. We would have some cost savings from a utility standpoint, a telecommunication standpoint, and so basically we're here to see what your desire might be.
Questions of council? I have a question. With the chamber occupying City Hall space, what are the chamber hours look like for the Fridays after the holidays?
They,
We are open 9 to 5.
Both Fridays? Okay.
We are considering the situation as well as City Hall with the amount of traffic. Normally, we don't get that much foot traffic.
Probably should be at the podium, but that's okay. All right, so you're looking, Chamber of Commerce is looking at potentially closing those 2 days as well, making it 5-day. How long is your work time on the eve days?
Both,
why don't we have them come up to
Yeah, do
Yeah.
you want to come up, Dave, please?
Yeah.
Thanks.
identify himself for the record?
No voice from the crowd.
David Archer, 79869 Garrett Allen Drive, Woodland, California. Thank you, Frank. So the chamber will be closed half day on New Year's Eve.
And all day Christmas Eve.
All day Christmas Eve, half-day New Year's.
Correct.
Okay.
Madam Mayor?
Yes.
But that doesn't prevent the chamber from coming in if they desire to stay open in those days.
No, it does not.
Correct.
So the only question would be is, granted, we're debuting our customer service center today in hopes that it's a one-stop shop. Is there thing, based on activity, desire, business, that retail businesses will be open that Friday, or the majority of businesses that might be impacted? Are we going to make a push to approve things so that if we're going to have downtime, that our plan check process, everything keeps moving so that it's not, we'll have to get to it on Monday? I want to be assured that we can still provide the same customer service in advance if we're going to be closed that long.
If I can, Madam Mayor, I mean, December 26th, the day after Christmas, I think we should
I
be
agree.
closed.
I
You know, I'm all for that. January 2nd, I know my office will be open, banks will be open, and a number of businesses are open that Friday. So business will move on that Friday, on the 2nd of January. But it's up to other council as well.
It's 1 in 7 years.
Was this done before? Do we have a record of having done this closure before?
Yes.
7 years ago?
Yes.
Yeah, Councilmember
we-
Smith.
Councilmember Smith, of course.
Yep, that was him.
Well, and it would be clear based on our decision that this is not would not be a mandate or a precedent per se. It would
Correct.
still have to come before the council for decision 7 years from now, whoever's
Correct.
sitting up here.
Question.
Yes.
In the rotational basis, where does the A-team fall on that Friday?
Basically, the B team would be working on Friday, December 26th, and the A team would be working on Friday, December 26th, and the B team would be working on Friday, January 2nd. And for the public, what that means is that we're work a 980 workday or work week, where we work from 7:30 to 5:30 each day for 9 days in a row, and then we get a Friday, Saturday, and Sunday off, and it staggers between shifts of employees. The other aspect of this is that our essential employees would still always be on call. Your management staff would be on call, and so if there's an emergency or things of that nature, we would be there to respond. This would not affect public safety personnel. They're under a different contractual basis, and there are no major events or special events occurring during the holiday season that we would have to prep sites or prep parking lots for in advance of some special event.
Thank you, David. Okay, the items before the council?
Okay. I move that we accept the recommended staff action to be closed on December 26th, 2014, and January 2nd, 2015.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Please vote. Motion passes 4-1 with Osborne voting no. Okay, we will move on to study session, discuss landscape theme for city-owned lots on Avenue 52. Tim, it's all yours.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and honorable city council members. While we're talking about some lots on Avenue 52 that are currently owned by the city and are dirt lots right now, I look at this as a continuation of our discussion that we started last spring regarding landscaping options that can help the city balance its budget in the lighting landscape district. We're currently projected to have about a $600,000 shortfall in 13-14 for our landscape and lighting district. And so with that in mind, we looked at these lots that are basically across the street from Fritz Burns Park and the fire station number 32 over by between Dune Palms and Avenida Bermudez. We have a standard landscape palette along Avenue 52 that on the south side of the street that's been used, and we're proposing to use something similar to match that on the north side, at least on the immediate frontage. Where we're looking for some leeway and some changes is in the landscaping palette on the side streets, if you will, on Amigo, on Avenida Bermudez, and Avenida Villa. And we'll have more on that in a moment. The project benefits, of course, we're trying to improve the entryway into the La Quinta Cove. This is one of the main entries into that neighborhood. We're also trying to improve the southerly approach into the village, and we've heard from both business owners and residents of the Cove that they'd like to see these two lots dressed up. Then also, we're looking to provide a demonstration project, if you will, of how we could possibly use less landscaping that requires water and higher maintenance to create still a very aesthetically pleasing landscape palette. And then the cost-effective means for suppressing dust interior to the lot. So what does all that mean? Well, I realize it's especially going to be difficult from the audience to see exactly where we're the details on this plan, but basically this is the lot, the vacant lot on Avenue 52. It's the fire station is to the south here where my cursor is, and then the Fritz Burns Park is directly behind it, or excuse me, directly to the west of it over here. So Avenida Bermudez is on the left side of the screen, Desert Club is on the right side of the screen. So along the Avenue 52 frontage, we're proposing a real similar palette to what we have, like I said, in the median and also on the south side of the street. We would have clusters, well, actually more spread out landscaping, DG boulders, different color DG to provide some contrast. The palms that we're projecting here are going to be a little bit inside of or outside of the 20-foot landscape setback, and to provide some more interest. And this complements the fact that we already have sidewalk and also the white bollard system out here and the chain to keep people from walking across the lots, which are going to be stabilized again, but this time with a mulch product that goes down one time. It's about a fourth or a fifth the cost, I believe, of DG, and that's going to be the interior finish of this lot. So the change comes on Amigo itself and on Avenida Bermudez, where what I'm proposing to do is to cluster the plants closer together to save on maintenance costs, but then use contrasting boulders, cobble, DG, things that we talked about before that don't require a high degree of maintenance and certainly don't require water, which triggers the need for utility costs and really raises the price of landscaping or of maintaining and irrigating the landscaping. Our capital costs are much lower because we're going to this type of a palette. The original projection for the three lots was about $215,000 in construction. Our estimated cost is about $100,000 less than that just by going to this palette. But I think the real savings is potentially in the fact that we're going to be spending a lot less on irrigation and maintenance. To maintain, DG is we project is right around 4 cents a square foot. Once you start adding landscaping and irrigation, it goes to 15 to 20 cents a square foot in a hurry. And so that's really what what we're trying to show, we can, by using limited amounts of that we can control those costs better. So the lots that are adjacent to Avenida Navarro and Avenida Bermudez would have the same, we would have the same type of approach, where we would do a more formal landscaping on the frontage on Avenue 52 along these lots, and then we would use our alternate landscape theme for the side streets, as I mentioned before. So that pretty much concludes my staff report. Be happy to answer any questions. Chris Herman, who is the landscape architect, is here also in the audience to answer any questions if you have any particular questions about the type of landscaping and so forth. Madam Mayor?
Questions of staff?
Looks good.
Yes, Christie?
I have a comment.
Comments? I'll go with comments.
Okay. We've talked about this before. It's certainly going to be an improvement. We've got nowhere to go but up here. But I'd like to see some sort of consistency of planting that identifies us as a community rather than mishmash. We've got everything known to man, and I can appreciate the water conservation. But for example, ocotillos, they're beautiful for about 3 minutes a year, and that's it. And otherwise, they're just kind of ugly. No, they are
They
really.
provide height.
Yeah, they do, that's true. There's
Visual
just dimension.
interest.
Yeah. But, I don't know, I just would like to see not such a variety of everything, but more, some sort of consistency.
Maybe it'd be a good time for the landscape architect to talk a little bit about the planting, because you're
Okay.
kind of getting out of my area of expertise for sure, so
Chris,
maybe
please come up.
Chris could come up.
Right, because they utilize the palette that we had previously agreed upon. It's a
Right.
matter of how we're organizing that, because we want to be consistent throughout.
Good evening, almost. Chris Herman, Herman Design Group. To your comment, Christie, the plant palette actually reflects many of the plants that are on the city palette. We're really sensitive to doing that, especially trying to be consistent on Avenue 52, looking across the street at what's been done there. And we also did the landscape design on the roundabout down the street and are familiar with some of the choices there. We also wanted to introduce some other options. Accent plants like ocotillo are one of those options. Pindo palms is another one of those options. But we feel like we've reflected the identity that the city has in the plant palette right now. And we've done our best to try to group those plants together so it's just not one here, one there, but there's some form and scale and texture and contrast. I have with me too our senior designer, Armando Garza. He goes by Opus. He's our plant guru, so if you have any specific questions, seasonality, flowering characteristics, any height, width, whatever those particulars are that you want to know about, he's here to answer those questions as well.
Yeah, I just have one more comment, if you will. Sometimes when landscape architects do boulders, they look like they've been dropped as a meteor out of the sky. And it's hard to make them a natural part of the landscape, but I would hope that you would work on that very hard.
Yeah, we take a lot of pride in boulder placement, and our construction documents, which will be the next phase, assuming an approval of this, we have a specific detail for how boulders are set in terms of a third of the boulder is buried. We make every effort to be there and place them and group them, and it's a really fun part of the project.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Okay.
And so, other questions?
Question, Chris, question about the mulch and maybe,
Oh, yeah, so this is a hydro mulch product that's being used with a soil tackifier, a soil stabilizer. It's a brown straw, so it's not what everybody refers to as gorilla snot or green. Yeah, so it's more natural. We've seen it used recently in Rancho Mirage. There's a project we're doing in Indian Palms, and this particular application will have a heavier dose. So the stabilizer has about an 18-month to 24-month life before it needs to be considered reapplied or raked up or reshot a little bit. It's a really good choice for a large area. It's probably a temporary use for 5 years.
So question, what, go ahead, do
Oh,
you have
I'm
a
sorry.
follow-up?
And so if somebody were to walk on it, kick it, move it around, what happens to it?
Opus did a lot of research on that. I'm going to let him answer all those questions for you, John.
We'll have a lot of kids, kind of right across from the park there.
Armando Garza. So the research that I found on that is, it is like a crust, but it's a much thicker crust than what would be like a dried up dirt, which is on there now. If you see, you can see the footprints on it. This is it's a harder crust with that bonding agent. So if there's heavy traffic, it's going to pick up and need to be maintained and reshot. But the life expectancy of 18 to 24 months is considering light traffic, such as a little bit of pedestrian walk and light traffic as far as golf carts, but not heavy everyday use on it.
The consistency of it, is it almost, I'm trying to picture it, is it almost like something you'd shoot in as insulation?
Similar. It's got that same texture feel to it, but it is a brown straw color, so it's going to adhere to the ground, and it's not going to be a fluffy base on top.
Okay.
Does it come in colors? Do we want to consider green so it looks park-like, or is it all
I didn't
brown?
find any colors in the options. I believe it is just the brown.
Okay, and given our recent rain, these areas, how are they impacted in terms of water deluge on those properties?
To the best of my knowledge, we didn't have any flooding or anything like that in these areas.
Thank you, Opus.
Thank you. Thank you.
So this was a budgeted CIP item
That's correct.
in the plan, and the total cost is $117,000 versus the budget that's $313,000.
Well, the construction cost was $215,000 versus this construction cost, which is estimated at $117. So that's where but there are other costs. That's not the total project cost. The $117 plus the design and admin would still be part of the project.
And if I recall, former council was looking at, one of my first things when we read through this was, what about North La Quinta? What about the perimeters? How are we going to fund that? And our last discussion was looking at other revenue sources, since this is clearly a budget item, on how to address that and work with homeowners on those things. So if we don't spend all the budget, that's a good thing, right? Because we need the CIP. We need the CIP money.
Comment?
Any other questions, comment?
And getting back to Chrissy's comment too about the consistency throughout the city. Are we going to be addressing that at some time? I think that, what we maybe have here and look at other parts of the city to make sure that we get that consistent basis too, because I think that's important.
Well, I look at this as the first step. I think we need to figure out if we can live with a not as lush a standard as we've used in parts of the city in the past. I can say in North La Quinta, it's really not a very consistent palette at all, because you have turf in some places, you have DG, and you have overhead spray in others, and all kinds of different plants out there, including ocotillos and everything else. But so the idea on for the demonstration component would be, okay, let's look at this and see if, using plants more judiciously like this, if it still still upholds the La Quinta aesthetic that we're looking for, but we're doing it with things that don't require a lot of irrigation and a lot of maintenance, and so that would be the goal of the project. And if that works, then we can look at maybe adopting a standard for other parts of the city.
Madam Mayor,
Yeah.
if I may, you mentioned about the northern parkways in our community, and the aspect of that is we came forward, we were going to do a design effort for that, and the council at that point elected not to move forward, pending other discussions of, more in particular, how we would fund that. We are scheduling, based upon tonight's action, a study session or a workshop that we're going to have on January 10th. And one of the actions we're going to be requesting you to think about at that workshop is order of priority for initiatives for 2015. One item on the list is the Northern Parkways and where we go with that. We started to discuss options, and one of the points of contention was what would the landscape palette be for those parkways. So as we go through our priorities on January 10th, if that one filters to the top, then we'll set about to resurrect what we did before and engage in those discussions.
Any other comments? The motion is before the council.
No, just study session.
Oh, study, that's right. We're ready to rock and roll here. Okay, you have direction, I guess?
Very good. All right, looks good.
No mulch and varied colors, so I guess we'll stick with that. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to reports and informational items. I'll start. I did not have CVAG meetings, but I did have a CVB meeting last week, and as mentioned, was nominated for chair for the coming year. They'll have a strong presence at the upcoming Palm Springs Film Festival. Their CVB's annual holiday celebration is this Thursday at the CVB offices in Rancho Mirage. It's from 5 to 8. They're doing a toy drive and food drive as well. Great event with all of the hospitality team. They've got music playing, and I would encourage you to attend if you haven't attended that function. And then lastly, they did host a FAM tour with the golf group at PGA West a week or so ago, and met at Ernie's in the morning. So they are doing more to bring opportunities to La Quinta, both for conventions, for stays, for group activities, and their PR manager happens to be a La Quinta resident, so that's helpful. So hopefully we'll be able to partner up on a few more things and get some greater visibility for our dollar. And that's my report. Christie, any?
Everybody's dark.
Everybody's dark. Lee, anything on your front?
Yes, the homelessness committee, we did meet, and like I said, we're having a homeless count on January 28th. We had a little class on that last week. Here in La Quinta, we have, I want to say, close to 10 people that are going to be involved in that count.
Oh, good.
So we've got a good-sized group. We've got some questionnaires and stuff we're going to be talking to the homeless about, and looking forward to that. The homeless counts for the city of La Quinta in the past have been in the neighborhood of 0, 1, 2. It's been that. And, you know, like myself, been here for 25 years, I know there's more than that in the city of La Quinta. And I know, you know, in our last year's budget, we stepped up and gave $50,000 to the operations of the homeless shelter. So this year I wanted to get involved with the homeless count to really see how that count's performed and try to get as accurate number as possible to bring back to you guys so you can see what really is out there. But the homeless committee is looking to change its committee back to where it was back 10 years ago, I want to say almost, where it's not specifically homeless, it's more about the general community affairs matters, such as, you know, years ago when they had first introduced the phone number 211. You know, that was brought up years ago, and other issues for the valley, whether it be medical or whatever it was. So we'll see how that committee's going. In regards to the Desert Sands Unified School District Committee meetings, I've been trying to get that going since September and have not been able to get a meeting with the district since last year, May, I believe was the last one we actually had. So I have talked to the new district president, Wendy. Jonathan. And by the way, Wendy said thank you very much for what we did for the middle school here in La Quinta Middle School. She is aware of the $10,000 we gave to the middle school. And so she is going to make it a priority to make sure the district's meeting with all the cities. So we'll see how that goes. And then on the IID Energy Consumers Advisory Committee, the ECAC, we had a meeting last night. We had a original meeting on the 1st, but with the Riverside County Blue Light ceremony here, we didn't have a quorum at the meeting, so we had to reschedule it for the 15th last night. It was a good meeting. Councilwoman, or I should say Mayor Lupe Ramos-Watson was elected chair for this area, and Esther Gomez as the co-chair for the Imperial County. They also looked at, you know, they have the benefit programs to help save energy, and one of the best programs they have is air conditioning, where they'll come in and look at your air conditioning, whether it be residential or commercial, look at your air conditioning, look at your duct system, and make sure it's the most efficiently run as possible. And it's done some pretty good things. They showed us some numbers in the report in 2013. They hit over 5,000 again, whether it be residential, non-residential, 5,000 customers, and spent about 1.3 million, and saved 6.7 million kilowatts, if I've got that, I don't know, Pat's here. Now, I asked the question, well, what's the dollar value of that kilowatt saved? They had no idea. They looked at me like, why are you asking that question? And I mean, if we're gonna spend 1.3 million, are we saving that in the value of the energy? And they struggled with that. And then the same for 2014. But it is one of the best programs they have. They funded an additional $1.2 million for that program for 2015. So if you have not, I would strongly suggest contact IID for free. They will send a person in to look at your air conditioning system, make sure it's running as efficiently as possible. They'll even look at your duct system to make sure you're not losing cold air. So it's a great program out there, and it's doing really well. And then we scheduled our next meeting for January. But that's it, Madam Mayor. Yes.
The homelessness count is always a snapshot,
Yes.
period. That
Yes.
doesn't
Who's out
really have
that day?
anything to do with anything in terms of just the homeless numbers here, because, you know, it's just that day, that time. So I was kind of wondering, I don't know what the cost of doing the homeless count is, but would it not be more effective to have a true number if you did it more than once a year? Like, and
It
did an
would. I
average
mean,
or something?
this is the first, it used to be only once every other year. So now they're gonna do it every year. So they're moving in that direction. I mean, our count is going to start at 5 o'clock in the morning to 9 o'clock in the morning. But we talked about, you know, still staying out other parts of the day to make sure we're getting everybody counted. We've got questionnaires we'll be asking, so, you know,
How's that
hopefully
information
not dual
used?
count.
How's that information used?
Then it goes to the HUD for homelessness and for
Okay.
funding, federal and state funding for the homeless.
Okay.
Based on the count,
Good.
the
And-
services
right,
rendered.
Right. And I know back when this thing originally started back in 2004, 5, they did a count, and then for the whole valley, and they realized, all right, here's facilities on the east end, here's facilities on the west end, we're short beds on the west end, and thus Roy's came to life, based on that original count back then. So, but hopefully we'll get a good count this year. They're also gonna be counting over at the rescue mission. So they'll know how many people are staying temporarily overnight at the rescue mission and what cities they're from. So we'll get a good idea how many residents of La Quinta or how many homeless from La Quinta are staying in the rescue mission as well.
Darla's report on that on occasion, maybe we
Right.
can make that more
Right.
regular going forward
So
with the funding.
I'll have some information coming back to this council probably in February or March when they get the final tallies from the numbers. Thank you.
On the airport commission report, just a couple comments. Number one, it looks like Sunline's evaluated that and said it's too expensive to provide services at the airport. So I'll be happy to hear more feedback on that, since you've been appointed to Sunline. And then on the advertising, since I guess for Edie, since they're changing up their advertising for all digital, I know we've consistently advertised at the airport with some of the panels. Are we continuing with the new digital plan going forward as they transition all of the terminal components?
We're looking into that. It's not in the plan this year, but we're looking at that as an option in the future. Right now, we purchased the panels for next year, and those are up and working in 2 different locations, and we'll be looking at the digital as well.
So are the panels going to remain intact as they transition out? We're good for a year there?
Yes, we're under contract for this year.
Okay.
And then next year, we can
When
look
they
at
go
other
digital.
alternatives.
Okay. So are they going digital next year, or they're keeping some panels and some digital
That was my understanding, that they have some of both.
in the interior? Okay. As long as we have a presence.
Yep.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you. Okay, questions on any of the reports? No departmental reports, city manager? No?
Nothing to report.
City attorney?
Nothing to report.
Susan? Okay. Anybody from our team? We're good to go?
If I could, Madam Mayor, one, Edie, I wanted to ask you on your report and any of the events or programs going on in North La Quinta, whether it be Colonel Mitchell Page, how are those going? I didn't see any, I see your attendance reports, but I didn't see anything that ties to events in North La Quinta to see if that's working out well or
Good
not.
question. I wanted to-
Some of those events will be starting up after the first of the year. We have a Youth Olympics program that'll be at Colonel Mitchell Page, and that has quite a few kids in it. We have started some of those classes over at Colonel Mitchell Page, and the library services have started up there too.
Okay.
So those seem to be growing. They're low in numbers as we expected that they would be, but we're continuing to promote those. Friday Night Lights had a huge program this year over at Colonel Mitchell Page, and those numbers were over 450 kids at Colonel Mitchell
That flag
Page.
football is just
Oh, it's exploding.
amazing.
2
Yeah.
seasons, so every field in the city is tied up in the spring and fall.
great.
So another question while you're up here regarding recreation and classes. We did leases, some short-term space rentals to displace while the wellness center was under construction.
Right, that's correct. At Franklin Elementary, or Adams Elementary, and then we used Colonel Mitchell Page, but not necessarily to replace, but to add. We budgeted for those to add classes that we would actually see how they would go and hopefully retain them there. The classes that are over at the schools that are adjacent to the center, we'll be closing those contracts down and relocating them back after January 17th when we reopen.
Okay.
Very good.
And for all of you, and Wanda has sent this out, but we want to get on your calendar for our grand opening and dedication on January 17th. It'll be tied with the Humana events that will take place this time in Civic Center campus. We'll have a family healthy fair and walk, and then the grand opening at 10 o'clock. So it should be a lot of fun, and we should see a good turnout for that.
So good, the whole council can walk the campus because we won't have to climb the Bear Creek Trail, although I love that.
That's right.
And there's no reason why we couldn't do a warm-up or healthy fair and then move on to the wellness center.
That's right. Should be all tied together, and Humana's part of that, and then we'll have our dedication and grand opening at the center, which is going to be fantastic.
Great job.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you, Edie.
Great job, Edie.
Okay, mayor and council member items. Anything to report? I have a couple of things. Tree lighting ceremony, great job, staff, for organizing that event, and thank you all for being there. It was good to have the new crew on board. And as Lee mentioned earlier, Robert and John and I had the opportunity to attend the Desert Sands School District Board meeting last week when Wendy Jonathan was named president for the coming year, and had an opportunity to introduce them and just talk about our collaborative efforts and goal to continue those on an ongoing basis, and just recognizing how proud we are to have those schools in our system here. Their meetings are now on the same night that ours are.
Yeah, they are.
So we,
Tuesdays.
I said goodbye and said that won't be seen for a while. Also, I want to thank the staff for the event held on the 2nd of January to recognize outgoing Mayor Adolph and Terry Henderson. A lot of positive comments from our residents and attendees, and just a job well done. And we're looking forward to tonight as well. So we do have a public hearing at 6 o'clock. So at this time, we will recess the city council meeting for our own meet and greet celebration to welcome the new crew, to show off our new customer service center, the one-stop shop to get everything done in La Quinta that you need, as well as the opportunity to see where the chamber now lives and how we're going to co-op for economic development. With that, Christy wants to hear the gavel. Meeting is recessed. Okay, good evening. At this time, we will reconvene the city council meeting and begin our public hearing. We have one tonight. It's the introduction of an ordinance to adopt amendments to zoning permitted use tables regarding farming of field crops in the low-density residential zone and of vocational schools in the regional commercial zone, and confirm a determination of exemption pursuant to the California Environmental Quality Act, Section 15061B3, Review of Exemptions, General Rule. We will begin with a staff report, please, Les.
Thank you, Your Honor, council members. This matter comes before you based on some observations that staff has had for quite some time, based on feedback we've received from the community, and specifically as a result of communication we've had with two different parties who have a direct potential interest, I should say, with these matters that are before you and the outcome of that. We are focused tonight on two items: field crop farming in the low-density residential zoning district and vocational schools in the retail commercial zoning district. Both of these are currently conditional use permit processes. Those permits require an applicant to go before the Planning Commission. That's a public hearing before them. That process, though it does represent an opportunity for public notification at a 500-foot radius, public posting, et cetera, it can take up to 60 to 90 days or more to facilitate. The matter that has come up is there the opportunity for those activities, those uses, to be reviewed and considered at an administrative level versus going to the Planning Commission every single time. The way that the municipal code reads right now for minor use permits and the processing of such is it gives the opportunity or discretion of the community development director to review those applications and to then determine, based on what is proposed, a variety of steps that could be taken to determine the outcome of that matter. It could be automatically determined by the director with no outreach or communication or dialogue. It could be a matter of making a determination as to if there are specific properties that they want to notice and provide an opportunity for feedback. There's also the option that it could be directed up to the Planning Commission. If there was enough concern that it was deemed that was the best approach, there could be a decision to actually take that forward for the Planning Commission to take action. Staff believes that this process, if approved, would simplify the efforts. It would allow for many of these proposed uses to complete a review process in a much more timely and expeditious way. This matter was brought before the Planning Commission recently. They did recommend unanimously City Council approval of the amendment and the CEQA exemption. I did want to point out there was one item that came with a recommendation that was specific to the agricultural field crop activity. They did recommend that there be a requirement for every applicant that there be an actual site posting where it's physically advertised, if you will, on the site, and that there's an automatic requirement for a 500-foot notification of that proposed use. Staff did not include that in the ordinance at this time. The reason for that is we do not conduct that currently, meaning that we do not do any site postings for any land use actions at this time. It is not a requirement or a standard here in the city, and that would be a very unique step to be taken for that to occur, and we felt it was important for council to consider that and if deemed necessary to direct that to be added into the ordinance, which we certainly can do. So with that, that would conclude staff's report, and certainly here to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you, Les. Questions of staff? Yes, Les, please.
Thank you. Les, in regards to, again, the aspect of notification that you talked about, I know in the Planning Commission they talked about it quite a bit and their concerns about notification. What's your thought regarding just at least notification of those residents within the 500 feet aspect, but not actually putting a post on the ground on that piece of property, but at least notifying the residents in that area?
Well, I guess the position that I took in considering those comments was it can vary. It's really a matter that I think needs to be addressed on a case-by-case basis. There could be a situation to where a 500-foot radius is warranted because it's in very close proximity to an established residential neighborhood or residential uses, or there could be some areas that there are a few of those in the south end of the community to where there's very limited residences nearby a piece of property, and it may be better just to notify those one, two, or handful of properties versus a full 500-foot radius. But obviously, it would be the requirement, I feel, of the community development director to really look at that on a case-by-case basis and make that determination. That's currently how the municipal code is written for minor use permit applications, is to look at those, again, and weigh the merits of what's being proposed at the site and take all that into consideration, then make the determination regarding notification. But at the same time, with ag activity, there is the potential for adverse impacts as well that I could see where a 500-foot radius does make some sense as well, but
Yeah, I see it more from an agricultural standpoint versus the other aspect of the trade school. You know, that 500 foot could get pretty voluminous in the number of folks being notified. But from the ag standpoint, I think that'd be a wise thing to do, so they're aware of it. And then, you know, yeah, because it can pose its own challenges, but notification would be good. And then, of course, we'll be able to deal with it up here if need be. But that's the only challenge. Now, one of the other questions, if I could, regarding the vocational schools, and the aspect of the vocational schools along Highway 111 and the trade between property that could generate sales tax versus uses that would generate no sales tax. I mean, how do you look at that? You know, and where a vocational school would want to locate along 111?
well, it depends. Some schools actually have services and exchanges occurring with them. So a culinary school may actually have a restaurant associated with it where you're actually coming in and dining there. Certainly with the beauty schools, they're providing services, and there's actually a cost associated with that, though it may be at a fraction of the expense to go to a standard salon or whatever the situation might be, but there is an exchange occurring. Also, one of the other benefits is there's a large group of people, the instructors and the students that are there on a regular basis, and there's an indirect associated with that, meaning that they're patronizing or visiting surrounding businesses and providing business to them as well. So there may not be as much of a direct from that particular use, but I think there is some. It's limited, and again, there's an indirect benefit as well.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have.
Questions, other questions?
Question. Less on the appeal process. The applicant can appeal to the planning commission. It's stated next highest approval authority, and also that can go to the city council, or is that planning commission final?
If the decision were made by the director, then it would be appealable by either the applicant or by a resident,
yeah.
whoever. That would go to the planning commission. If at the planning commission level, again, that decision could be appealable to city council.
Okay,
But it would have to go to planning commission first. It wouldn't go directly from the director all the way to council.
right, thank you.
Just a question less about when the applicant concludes the use of that property, what happens? Does he have to reapply to reestablish the previous use, or it happens automatically? The minor use permit goes away and it goes automatically back to what it was, commercial for commercial or low density residential.
Sure, and I'll just use the excuse or the example, I should say, of like the trade schools. The school would be able to continue to operate even if there was a change in ownership. It stays with the property and with the use unless there's a specific condition imposed that would be contrary to that. But once the use were to cease and no longer occur there, and there was a period of time, and I can't remember exactly what it is off the top of my head, it's either 90 days or 180 days, then they would have to, if somebody else came in and wanted to do that same use, they would have to reapply. But it would stay with the property unless there's a lapse of a certain amount of time or a condition imposed that would sunset it.
Thank you.
Christie?
Les, this one piece of property that we're talking about with respect to farming was farmed at one point in time. How did that occur, and what happened to get us to where we are right now?
Well, unfortunately, we haven't spent much time on the specifics with that matter because we brought this forward as a text amendment for your consideration tonight. If you did approve this, then we would enter into conversations with Mr. Hammer specifically about the property. But I know there's a history with that, but I don't know it enough to give you the details tonight.
That's all right. Thank you.
There comfort level in terms of the unique ordinance by adding the additional component in along with the proposed motion. You know, if you want to go back a slide, you had something in parentheses that we were adding. Not included, but recommended, the site postings.
So we could remove the site posting, and we just have a mailing in the 500 feet, but it's still up to your discretion, Les?
Certainly, you could add that requirement in, again, for the ag field crop use to require an automatic 500-foot radius notification for that use specific. Certainly, that could be added to the ordinance.
Do we want to make that as an option versus a recommendation to automatically do that and look at it on a case by case? Is that
Well,
one of the-
it's going to be up to him to look at it from a case to case. It won't come to us. But I think at least a notification from the agricultural standpoint on that 500 would make sense. So people are aware of it.
Okay. Any other questions? So this is a public hearing, so we will open the public hearing. Hear from, we are the applicant. Anybody else in the audience that would like to comment on the matter? Seeing none, we will close the public hearing and matters before the council.
Madam Mayor, if there's nothing, other concerns, I'll make a motion to take up ordinance number 523 by title and number only and waive further reading, and adding, though, that we have a public notification from an agricultural use standpoint for those residents within the 500 feet.
There's a motion and a second with the amendment. Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Madam Mayor, I'll read the ordinance into the record. Ordinance 523, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of La Quinta, California, approving Zone Ordinance Amendment 2014-1001, amending Tables 9-1 and 9-5 of Title 9 of La Quinta Municipal Code, modifying the table of permitted uses related to field crop farming in the low-density residential zone and vocational schools in the regional commercial zone.
Okay, with that, Ms. Mayor?
Yes.
Madam Mayor, I will move in to introduce at first reading ordinance number 523, adopting zone change 2014-1001.
Thank you. The motion and second. Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Okay, with that concludes our public hearing. And before we adjourn, I would like to just recognize Xochitl Peña for the work that she's done for La Quinta as our Desert Sun reporter. She's informed me that this is her last meeting for good reasons. They've done some reassignments, and we'll be meeting Sherry our next session. Is that correct, Xochitl? Who's been covering Cathedral City and Desert Hot Springs. Okay. So she's moving into a bigger pond. And we're very happy for her, and we appreciate the work that she's done to help promote La Quinta.
Yes.
So,
yes.
Thank you very much, Xochitl.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
With that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, Happy Hanukkah, all of those wonderful things.
Same. Thank you.
Thank you very much for being here.